Greetings. This is Paul the Poke from PaulthePoke.com. Today's topic: Knesset approves change. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Welcome. We have a change in leadership and government. For the first time in 12 years, a divided Knesset approved a government not run by Benjamin Netanyahu. After some drama earlier in the day with Arab Ra'am Party leader Mansour Abbas, the vote was cast in favor of the change bloc. The final vote tally was 64 and 59 opposed, one abstained. Naftali Bennett is the new prime minister of Israel. Politically, many think Bennett is very similar to Netanyahu. He is right of center and right of Netanyahu as head of the new right party. Bennett is no nonsense and has a take no prisoners attitude when it comes to parties who wish to harm Israel. He does have a history of controversial comments towards factions of the Palestinians and enemies of Israel. Bennett previously served in Israeli Special Forces units of Sayeret Matkal, just known as the unit, and Maglon, which is a reconnaissance unit. So they would be going behind enemy lines and seeking information, recon, etc. Bennett recently served as the defense minister in 2019-2020, and Bennett also previously served as Netanyahu's chief of staff from 2006 to 2008. He also founded and sold a technology company, Ciota, which specializes in e-fraud. And I got that information from Wikipedia. There's some more stuff there for you folks who are interested in that. Here is Prime Minister Bennett's Twitter page. Went for the prayers. He's Orthodox. And everybody's saying he's the first person to wear a yarmulke to be prime minister. So, also for the first time in Israel's history, an Arab party will have a say in governance. This is the Ra'am party headed by Mansour Abbas. And he's the power broker of this new government. Without him, we would not have a new government, likely be headed toward a fifth election. But at any rate, all eyes will be focused on Abbas inside and outside of Israel. Now, this is going to get really interesting because there will be Arabs who are upset with this guy. There are going to be Arabs who are for this guy. And he is, of course, Jewish society in general will be probably primarily opposed, but we'll see how all this goes down. Abbas is a dentist by trade. He is opposed to the Abraham Accords that have been signed recently within the last year or two. Socially, he is opposed to LGBTQ plus causes and is supportive of conversion therapy. So fundamentally, he is a fundamental Muslim. Abbas is set to bring billions of shekels to Arab Israeli communities throughout Israel. Shekels are slated for society development, infrastructure, violence and organized crime, and recognition of communities. So he's looking to stop those things. And he got some funding to allow some monies to go to Arab Israeli communities, and some would say he was paid off. On his way out of power, Benjamin Netanyahu expressed grave concern for the security of Israel. His primary concern is Iran. Here's a quote from the previous prime minister. From the moment the U.S. returns to the nuclear deal with Iran, and I'm going to stop right there. So he expects the Biden administration to return to the nuclear deal with Iran. The incoming government, back to the Israeli government, won't approve significant operations in Iran. A government that is not able to forcefully oppose the international community on the pressing issues for our fate is not worthy of leading Israel, and that's Benjamin Netanyahu. So he's pretty much concerned that this fractured group with eight different political parties and a shared prime ministership 2 years at a time, they're not going to be able to stand up to the pressure and be able to do what they need to do to defend themselves against many people think that a nuclear Iran is inevitable, and they're getting close. And, by their own intelligence, they would admit that this is becoming critical. So definitely will be something that will happen. As far as outside pressure from, different terrorist groups, whether it's Hezbollah, Iran, Hamas, I mean, you name it. And there's all kinds of these different little splinter groups that are constantly renaming themselves, rebranding, but they do have one thing in common. They want to get rid of Israel. And it would appear the two-state solution between the Palestinians and Israel is likely back on the table in favor of the Abraham Accords. Now, time's going to tell on that deal, and it may even be something else. They may come up with something else. But you can bet there's going to be a newfound pressure for peace in the Arab-Israeli conflict, and especially now that there is an Arab voice in the Israeli government. We will be hearing a lot about Ra'am Party Mansour Abbas. He is going to be prominent in the news, and he's going to be a power broker. So people will be putting all kinds of pressure on this guy. He's going to have a lot of power, and it will be interesting to see what outside forces think of this guy, because there's Mahmoud Abbas with the Palestine. I'm sorry. I'm getting my Abbas's. It is Mahmoud Abbas. I'm sorry. Of Palestine, the PLO. He's going to be a factor. You're going to have, of course, Hamas is going to be opposed to him. You're going to have, and he is with the Muslim Brotherhood, so he's going to be probably okay with Erdogan to some degree. Now, who knows where Erdogan's going to stand on it? That's going to be fascinating to watch, and that would also put him at odds with Iran. Him being Sunni and Iran being Shia. So there's going to be a religious component involved with this as well. So we got some real interesting times coming for Israel. We'll watch. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen? I think there'll probably be some twists and turns and some things that are going to take place. You're going, I didn't see that coming. And this coalition, it's a fractured coalition. The only thing they do have in common is they wanted Netanyahu out of power, but they will be tested by foreign adversaries. And I suspect not much time will pass before this happens. Now, we know Land for Peace is where this all is headed. The question is how soon, and I'm going to close with Joel 3, verse 2. I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Then I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people and my inheritance, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and they have divided up my land. Israel, and they have divided up my land. So Joel indicates Israel will be agreeable to having their land divided up. And we've already seen this in the past. The Palestinians got the Gaza Strip, probably looking at parts of the West Bank getting divided at some point. God makes it pretty clear from the prophet Joel. He doesn't approve of it. And it's written, several hundred years before Christ, and it's written on just as a statement of fact, and they have divided up my land. So we know this is coming. We know where this is going, and God will bring judgment on the nations that are involved with this. Interesting times, and it just makes you wonder, are we watching pieces being put into place that allow these things to happen? And how soon will it take place? Also hanging out there, we don't have a temple. We don't have a 10-nation federation or leadership group. We got some things that need to happen yet, but change is coming. And my suspicion is we're going to have a vacuum in leadership just because of you got so many different divergent opinions as part of this new government and coalition. But we'll see. I could be wrong about that. But we'll watch. We'll see what happens. Please follow. Please keep close attention. You can type your email address in, receive notification every time we put some stuff out. News is probably going to be coming pretty fast and furious over the next week or two with the new government. And we'll see what happens. Please feel free to share with others at PaulthePoke.com. And you guys have a great day and keep your eyes on Israel. That's where it's at, according to God. Take care. Bye.